Hi, well, welcome to our quick little demonstration on common mistakes made by contractors. I've been starting to present this when we have our lien law seminars, and I've found that it is really helpful for many of our customers. So some of it may not apply to you because we are based out of Arizona, and most of the jobs that we protect are in Arizona. We do protections on in other states and um, we can help you with what those requirements are in other states. So, but this is just kind of a general common mistakes that people make that when they're using a lien service and they're putting in information in the portal to have the lien service send out preliminary notices. So, let me go into that right here. Okay. So the number one mistake that our customers making is they don't get educated on lien rights. They got burned on a job maybe, and they're like, I got to start liening projects, and they don't even know about preliminary notices. They don't even know what's required. So that is the first mistake most people make. Is education. The second, I kind of already said it, they don't send a preliminary notice. In Arizona, it is a state where it is required within the first 20 days of starting a job. There are some states where it's not required. There are some states where it's required on certain type of jobs, and then other ones where it's required before you even start work. So you need to understand what the requirements are in the state where you're working. The third mistake is poor project due diligence. Customers just assume that lien companies have a crystal ball and just know everything about a project. That is not the case. You must provide a good information. You want to find out who the GC is if you're not working for the GC. You want to find out if there's any lenders on the job, who the owner of the project is, who hired the general contractor. We'll go into that in a little bit. And the fourth mistake is signing the wrong waiver. Some states, mostly in the Western United States, typically they have four different types of waivers and sometimes just two different types of waivers. And they sign the wrong waiver and they waive all of their lien rights and they don't have any way, their only recourse is just lawsuit, which is very expensive. So we'll go into a little bit of each of these. The first one, lack of education. By you watching this, you're avoiding that. So congratulations, kudos to you. When you have new staff come in, new employees, and you have turnover, make this a priority if they're going to be having anything to do with gathering project information or putting in the project information into a lien services portal to send that out. So, and that is something that we do all the time. If you have new employees, just have them reach out to us and say, I don't know I don't even know what a pre-lien is. I don't even know what liens are. What is it? Like we'll help walk them through that. So thank you for being the solution to that. The second mistake, no preliminary notice sent when it is required. And the reason they're not sending a preliminary notice is because of lack of education. And part of this mistake is there's no process in place to ensure that those notices are sent. I tell customers, I think the best time to send a preliminary notice is when you have a signed contract. You'd be amazed at how many people don't have contracts. That is actually, I mean, it's not necessarily required on commercial jobs in Arizona. It is required on residential jobs in Arizona, and most other states, they do require contracts. I know well, anyways, every state is different, so I'm not going to go into every state's requirements. So, anyways, I recommend doing that as a process. You guys kind of have to look at your company and see how you work. Maybe it's reasonable for your office team, your office staff to every Monday, you know all the jobs. If they know all the jobs that are starting that week, maybe that's when you do it on a weekly basis. But I have found that customers who have a process in place, when they have a signed contract or when they have an agreement and they send it right then. In Arizona, there's no penalty for sending it too early. Let's say you think the job's going to be 4 months down the road. I'll leave that up to you. If you can do it now, if you have a signed contract, you may not start for 4 months, but you are good. You can send it early. The number three mistake, which I'm going to spend most of my time on this, it's going to be a short little video, but most of the time is going to be spent on this. I have found that our customers are not doing their due diligence on these jobs. As I mentioned before, lean companies, we do not have crystal balls. Sure, we have a database and sure, we can look in our system, and it's possible that we've done another preliminary notice and we know bond information and we know ownership and we know the GC. It's possible, but it's not all, I wouldn't rely on that. We don't know where you're working. You have to tell us where you're working. And let's say that it's a dirt lot. You need to give us, describe in layman's terms where you're working, or you can send us a screenshot of a map with a pinpoint on it. So that's good. Use a good job name. Don't give us a name that's just numbers that mean it's meaningless. Help us because if it's like a commercial shell building, okay, and it doesn't have a name, at least put that. A job name is not your scope of work. It is not plumbing. It is not the name of your customer. That is not a job name. Tell us about your job. Is it in a shopping center? What's the name of the shopping center? Is it at a restaurant? What's the name of the restaurant? Is it at someone's house? What is their last name? Let's call it the Smith residence. That way it helps us when we're researching and verifying ownership that it makes sense. Okay. Um, and then job site location. This is really important. We'll go into that a little bit. Most general contractors, they have, let me get this out of the way. Most general contractors are putting together job sheets. More and more are doing this so that there's accurate information on your preliminary notices. Feel free to ask your GCs if it's not included in your contract. Try to get this information. This is what's going to help you. Now, I don't want you to rely on this 100% because a person created this and people make mistakes. If it has a project address right here of 75th Avenue, 21360 North 75th Avenue, research that. Can you just go to Google Maps or something like that and get an aerial view of that piece of property and make sure that's where you're working? Um, don't rely on this 100%. You should confirm it. Now they're probably going to have the right owner because they're putting who they contracted with. Um, and sometimes there's more than one owner. And there's also lender information and sometimes bond information. So we want to get all that information. If they don't have that for you, then it just makes your job a little bit harder and you want to get this due diligence done. You are going to get more accurate information than any lien processing company is going to get, unless they already had it in their system. What we do is we reach out to GCs and we try to get this information. They don't have to reply to us. They don't often like us sometimes. So in Arizona, we don't have that problem as much because it's such a common practice sending preliminary notices, and most GCs want accurate information on the project and on these pre-liens. Okay. Next is project name. I mentioned a little bit about an example of, let's give a good name to a project. This is an example of, this is a real example. A customer named a project BK 23606. That means nothing to me. I don't even know what I'm going to be looking for. And they said it's on 99th Avenue in Van Buren. Well, that doesn't help me either because this is 99th Avenue in Van Buren. It could be any of these parcels. You see, anything that's outlined in blue is a parcel. It has a parcel. I need to find the parcel. So I am clueless. I have to reach out to the client. I'm trying to look at their contract they uploaded. Maybe that has it in there. I ended up calling them and say, can you tell me what BK 23606 is? And they told me, and it was Burger King. I'm like, oh, okay, next time can you just write Burger King? That helps me know what we're looking for, and we can certainly find it. And I found Burger King was right here on the corner. So now I'm going to change the address, and Burger King has an address. So you don't want to put 99th Avenue in West Van Buren. Empty lots may not have an address. So I just put the northwest corner of 99th Avenue in Van Buren. You could put the actual address of that Burger King too, but both work as long as I can find it. Now, let's say it was this property back here. I hope you can see I don't know if you can see my pointer. Let me just do this in case. Let's say it was this property right here. You would not put the northwest corner of 99th Avenue in Van Buren because this in the blue is 99th, the northwest corner. So you would want to give me an address or say um, 99th Avenue, North 99th Avenue, just northeast of Van Buren, something like that. You would want to give a different description. The other thing you can do is actually give me the parcel number. There's a number right there underneath that, and that's what you could also do. Okay, that is not working. Okay, hopefully that line will go away. Okay. Okay, here's another example. Someone gave us Starbucks. Okay, that's wonderful. You're telling us it's the Starbucks. Here's the address. Well, the problem I had here is this is the address to Starbucks. And how do I know our customer didn't mean like the Starbucks might be right here, but I'm looking it up. I don't see that any of these are Starbucks. And then I said, can you help me out with that? Where is this? And they said, oh, it's in the Fry's, which is a grocery store, which is right here. Okay, now I know what parcel it's in. So the more information you give, the better. Um, a job location, when it doesn't have an address, the statute says, at least for Arizona, it's a description of the job site sufficient for identification. So that is what we want from you, a description of the job site sufficient for us to identify exactly which piece of property this is. All right. Here's a warning. A lot of material suppliers, they will get a delivery address to send to. It is really important that you know that you don't just automatically put a delivery address because it may be an adjacent property that's a staging area. Um, or maybe just the location of the services and materials that are off-site. So maybe the delivery address might be the GC's home because they want it at their house because they're not ready to take it to the job site yet. You do not put the job address of your delivery address unless you absolutely know that the delivery address is the address of the property being improved. The job site is the location of the property that is being improved. Okay. If you are a material supplier, please be aware of this. Please ask your customers, is this the property where the work is occurring? If it is a huge project, it is very possible that they're leasing space from a adjacent property to, store their equipment, store their deliveries, things like that. So be aware of that. And the number four mistake, common mistake, is our customers signing wrong waivers. Every state has different, some are statutory waivers, some don't have a statutory waiver legislation that is required. But a lot of times they say they have unconditional and conditional waivers, and they can be confusing. If you sign an unconditional waiver, but have not had the funds hit your checking account or your bank account, you just waived all of your lien rights. And you don't want to do that. I've had several customers do that. They just willy-nilly go in this portal, go say, I need a waiver. They don't know which one to click. They can click which ones they want. They don't know which one to click. They just clicked any of them and they sign it and they send it to their customer. And if they have not been paid, they lose all of their lien rights. I actually have another video on our YouTube channel. Just go to Titan Lien Services. We have a YouTube channel, it has a few videos on there. And one of them is Arizona lien waivers. Even though it's specific to Arizona, it's a really good review and it helps you understand the difference between an official recorded lien release, which people get confused with a waiver and release. So it kind of goes over that. It talks about unconditional versus conditional, what that means. And I think it would be helpful even for other states. So just as a just something to get an idea, big picture idea about waivers and how they work. So anyways, super casual, quick little recording I'm doing here. If you have any questions, feel free to just give our offices a call at Titan Lien Services. Our phone number is 480-380-3434. Thanks so much.